All right, welcome back, everybody, to the wonderful world of broadcast programming. Chapter 6 this time around, talking about syndication. We're going to look at it from the aspects of broadcast television as well as cable and online. So, this particular video, looking at the first 5 sections of your notes. Programs for syndication arise in one of 4 different ways. The first way would be the first run program. That's a show that is originally created exclusively for syndication. This program has not run on a network prior to this. It has not run on a cable channel prior to this. It is truly a show that was meant to be syndicated. Foreign films tend to be lumped into this category. They may have aired outside the United States, but once they come to the U.S. And have not aired on a network or on a cable channel, they're put out to syndication, they are considered to be part of that first run category. Off-network programs, they were originally created for one of the broadcast networks and then are subsequently sold into syndication. So these are the shows that run on CBS and NBC and all the other networks and then later find themselves being syndicated. Off cable, same sort of thing as off network, except these shows originally aired on cable channels. And then feature films. These can be anything from theatricals to made-for-TV movies, made-for-cable movies, and the movie of the week, which actually made a comeback in 2020. CBS was doing it on Sunday nights for a while. So, those are the main sources of where syndicated programming comes from. Off-network shows are sold for several years with a fixed number of runs per episode. So, when the contracts are drawn up for the rights to air those programs, they're going to get several different episodes, usually from several different seasons, and they're going to be allowed to run each particular episode a certain number of times. First run programs are generally sold in syndication for 1 to 2 years at a time, with a predetermined number of weeks of original programs and repeat programs. Some common syndicated genres, you can take a look at this in your textbook and you see the list on your screen here. These are some of the more popular types of programs that you're going to find out there in syndication. Here are a few more here. Some of the ones, reality kind of making the list now, fairly new in relation to the other shows that we have seen. And children's programming, kind of a special category when it comes to syndicated programming. When we're talking about children's programming, we're talking about animation, live action, theatrical, also the FCC mandated educational instructional programming, or what they'll call EI. So if you're tuning around the dial on a Saturday or a Sunday, that's usually when these shows will air. And you see the little EI in the corner of the screen. This is one of those shows that the station is airing to fulfill the educational instructional requirement. Now, as of last year, as of 2019, broadcast stations are required to air 156 hours of EI programming every year. And this can be done in one of 2 ways. You could either air all 3 hours of EI programming over the course of a week and do that every week throughout the year. Or you can air 2 hours of EI programming every week and then air the remaining time as specials and short features. Prior to 2019, you only had the option of running 3 hours of programming per week to meet the EI requirement. They've changed the structure of that to allow for special types of broadcasts to be able to occur and to have that count towards the requirement. The producer and the production company. terms here for you. Showrunner. Showrunner is known by various names, whether it's the executive producer, the line producer. What this person does is he or she coordinates the diverse elements, including the various workers that constitute a television program. So it's basically kind of the overarching supervisor of everything that is going on associated with a particular program. The production company is the group that finances and produces the television program. They'll hire the showrunner and the staff that that person oversees. They will purpose and propose different program ideas. They'll also finance producers that bring their own ideas along. So sometimes the ideas come from in-house, and then there are others that will approach a production company and propose an idea, and they may bring that idea and that person and staff alongside. The decision to begin production of a new program depends on a couple of factors. One, whether a broadcast or cable network is interested in the idea, or whether the program is suitable for domestic or foreign distribution. In other words, is there a market for it? Can you imagine a significant audience that will be interested in that program? And or can you imagine a particular network or broadcast outlet or cable channel that would be interested in carrying that show? The syndicator. Syndicators provide programming to local stations on a market-by-market basis, and there's no loyalty to network affiliation here, even by syndicators that also run networks. One of the things that you might have seen is that as we're getting more into this vertically integrated sort of structure when it comes to media production and distribution, the networks are now also involved in creating programming content. And there's many times where you may see a television show that was produced by CBS that is actually airing on NBC. And you've got different shows that make, they make those jumps in lines. Basically what's happening here is that a network is going to be interested in a particular show. A broadcast station is going to be interested in a particular show if they feel like it's going to fit their audience and that there's going to be an advertising market for that particular show. So it is going to be from market to market to market. One good example of this would be the combo of Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy. In the Raleigh market, it happens to air on the ABC affiliate, WTVD, Channel 11. Meanwhile, you hop over to the Greensboro market, and those two shows are being aired by the CBS affiliate in Greensboro, WFMY, Channel 2. So, network affiliation doesn't really play a role in what channels these shows are going to air from market to market to market. The deals are done on an individual station basis, and when the station picks up that particular show, that show is exclusive to that station. Although the syndicator may have more than one customer in a market, only one station is licensed to carry any particular program at a time. So a couple of big syndicators that you might have seen. King World produces a lot of talk show content. Fremantle Media does a lot of game shows. And you might have a show produced by Fremantle on one particular station within a market, and then another show that Fremantle produces might wind up airing on a competing station in that market, as long as it's not the same show. But it is very possible for a syndicator to be able to have programming content on multiple stations in a market. Some syndicator sales strategies include upgrading programs to a higher rated time slot, selling a program to a stronger station in a market, and syndicators get a commission from sales through distribution. So these are the ways that syndicators make money. They try to get the most that they can for their particular program from market to market to market, and they have an interest in trying to get their show in a higher rated time slot so that more people will watch the show, so that they are able to earn more money for their airing of their show in a particular market. Increasingly, program purchasing and scheduling decisions move towards corporate or group management and away from local television stations. So even though syndicators create the contracts on a market-by-market basis with each station, where we're seeing a lot of television groups owning stations in multiple markets, it's not unrealistic to think that a syndicator might make a deal with, say, Nexstar Broadcasting, which owns Channel 17 in Raleigh, and that Nexstar might make a agreement to run a particular program from that distributor on all of their stations across the country, or on a select amount of stations in different markets. At the station level, the people most commonly involved are the general manager, the business manager, and the program director. That same program manager may be responsible for programming two stations in the same market, as would be the case with Sinclair Broadcasting here in Raleigh, where Channel 22 and Channel 28 are both co-owned. Program director may be responsible for both stations there. While in effect these stations compete against each other, Channel 22 and 28, they're both broadcasting to the Raleigh market. So in a way, they're competitors, even though they're part of the same company. However, the programmer is likely going to set up complementary program schedules, hoping to maximize viewership on both stations. So the way that the program director lines up programs and tries to get shows on Channel 22 is going to have a little bit of a different mentality than lining up shows for Channel 28. They're going to try to get different audiences to tune in to those two different channels. So as much as possible, they're not directly competing against each other, but they're trying to, between the two of them, get as much of the audience in the market as they possibly can. All right, let's talk about the national sales rep, also known as a rep programmer. This is a person that sells national advertising time for stations, and this person serves as a consultant to stations about programming buys. So the rep programmer does not work directly for a particular television station. It is someone that works outside of the station, works on behalf of the station, and provides various services, including marketing support, sales research, promotion advice, and programming consultation. So in a way, you can almost kind of think of it as the equivalent of like when an actor has an agent. That agent is going to be serving multiple actors. Well, the rep programmer serves multiple stations, works in the best interest of each individual station, just does not outright blatantly work for the station. Through these support services, reps help client stations improve their performance in terms of audience delivery, which leads to increases in advertising rates. So the advice that is provided by the programming rep, it is in his or her best interest to see the station that he or she is consulting do well, because it means that station's advertising rates increases, the station overall does better, which means that the national rep also does better. Rep programmers provide ratings information that may support or call into question information that syndicators supply. Whenever syndicators are pitching a program to prospective stations to go into contract with, The rep programmer has done a certain amount of research about these programs and how well programs have done in different markets around the country, and is able to kind of give a more objective sort of analysis as to how well a program may do on a particular station in a particular market. They have information on how well that show has done across the country, including inside information on maybe different rates that are being paid and all that sort of thing, and what the return on investment would be for those particular stations. So rep programmers kind of help to act as a gatekeeper of sorts on behalf of the stations when they're considering programming content. One of the rep's most important functions is to regularly disseminate generic national research information and market-specific research to client stations. So all that stuff that we were just talking about, that is information that the rep has gathered, has readily available, and makes that information available to the stations that he or she works for. Program acquisition. For most stations, the money spent annually to acquire syndicated television shows is their single largest expense. This is where most of the money goes from a television station paying out these various syndicators. The syndicator's salesperson tries to convince the programmer of the program's merits. Makes sense. If you're a syndicator, you're putting out various shows, you're going to talk up those shows, and not only are you going to talk about the content of the show, but you're going to try as the syndicator to talk about what sort of demos that show is going to be able to bring to the station, the anticipated clients, types of clients that you might be able to attract with that programming, and talk about all the benefits of bringing on this particular program to your television station. Now, the rep programmer does not actually purchase the program, but the rep's positive recommendation to a station paves the way for the salesperson when he or she contacts the station. So even though the rep programmer is working at the behest and the pleasure of television stations, the syndicators are also going to get pretty buddy-buddy with the national reps and try to convince the national rep that the shows that they have available are going to be valuable additions to different stations, in hopes that the rep will talk positively about their shows whenever they consult with the stations that they work for. So this is a good point for us to take a break, and we will continue on with section number 6 of the notes when we hop on over the part B of this chapter.